The podcast, episode number 48. It is time for a spooky dinner and a date. It is I, KJ Thunderdome Johnson, alongside Dr. Death. Just John.
Yes, sir. I like that. How you doing, buddy?
My friend, I am truthful with you. I am truthful with the people. Not good. Not good. Not feeling great. I haven't been feeling great for a little bit now, but I am happy to be joining my best friend to talk about something that I love. This very, very, very stupid show.
Listen, if there's anything that can get you out of a bad mood, is some good old-fashioned wrestling.
And not just any old wrestling, but WCW. Jim Herd personified. Halloween Havoc 89. Thunderdome cage match, just John.
Yep.
Thunderdome cage match. Electrified. The entire thing.
Cage match. Yep.
Remember
I don't know how
that.
they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it.
It's going to be some trickery. It's going to be some trickery, no doubt. But we're going to get right into it, just John. We're going to start. Welcome to the Colossal Tussle podcast, where we are reviewing Halloween Havoc 89, and it's time for the numbers.
Give it to us, buddy.
Absolutely. October 28th, 1989. The buy rate is 175,000 buys. This is the first ever Halloween Havoc, and therefore I do not have the previous year to go by. They're starting off hot, just John, 175,000 buys. Not to mention, we are in the Philadelphia Convention Hall and Civic Center with 7,300 fans. In them in.
Yep.
I saw a lot of empty seats sprinkled throughout the arena. Not to mention, just John, before we even talk about the actual show necessarily itself, we need to talk about the lighting situation that took place on this show.
Yep. Even
lighting
for the backstage, for every it was a mess. That's the one thing you should be getting right.
People in goddamn shadows couldn't even see Gordon Soley for half of the time. It was madness.
Yep.
Terry Funk was in the distance. There was a guy, Chris Cruz. Chris Cruz is a new announcer, dude, for the WCW. Didn't even see his fucking face. I only saw his eyeballs.
Listen, I tried to give them credit and be like, maybe they were keeping up the spooky theme of the show, but I don't think that was the case at all.
Just bad shadow. just horrible shadow. Unreal. So on the announce desk, we have Jim Ross and the tenacious, the tyrannical,
your guy,
the absolute barn burner that is Bob Caudle.
Yep. And we start off the show too with a really spooky intro. Where they show the main event, but as ghosts. So it's gonna be a spooky night of wrestling.
I love the corniness of Halloween Havoc. They kept this up from the beginning to the very end. The very last one just so bad all the time. I love it. It's so bad it's good. Match number 1, the Z-Man. The undefeated Z-Man, as a matter of fact, versus Mike Rotunda. Z-Man being undefeated here in the WCW. And the match itself, just John, unfortunately, a little bit underwhelming for an opener. Basic ass action, basic back and forth. I mean, they didn't do anything technically wrong. They didn't do anything bad. They didn't mess up any spots by the looks of it. It was just a slow, basic bitch match. So I ask you, is this the type of match that you prefer? to, let's say, the cruiserweights, because we did a very in-depth look on, in our previous entries with 1997 WCW. So, what did you think of this match, and did you prefer it to the openers that we have had? Because we have had some barn burners.
Listen, for the era, like,
Mm,
if you go back to that era and that style of wrestling,
yeah,
I can see this being a decent opener. I think we got a little spoiled with all the cruiserweight stuff, the Rey Mysterios and the fucking Eddie Guerreros and shit like that, but
right, right,
again,
yeah.
like you said, they didn't do anything bad.
No,
Like,
no,
there wasn't any major botches, there wasn't like, again, it was a solid opener, it just there wasn't anything there, like, there wasn't
yeah.
anything to really, like, catch your eye.
I feel like it's not a lot to ask to do a flip, you know, to get me to get me to just go, "Ooh,"
You
I
wanted
don't
to
know.
see a couple super kicks in there?
Is that so much to ask? Lift your leg a little, you know?
But yeah, there wasn't anything wrong with this match, it was just it was a match that happened in
It did.
1989, that's it.
It did. It did. Sure enough, after the basic chain wrestling and all that jazz, Z-Man is the one that's going to be picking up the victory, so he will remain undefeated. Yeah, yeah, and there you have it. As we said, very basic. Match number 2, however, it would have been my pick for the show opener. A complete different type of deal, as we have a 6-man tag match.
Sorry to
Dr.
interrupt you, but
Death. Mm.
it almost felt like we just saw, like, a dark match, and this was, like, the actual proper, like,
Yeah,
intro to the event.
honestly, and it probably that's what was supposed to happen, and they just decided to go on air early.
You think the fans didn't pay to come see the Z-Man?
No, because we had Doctor Death, Jim Ross with Doctor Death, Steve Williams, and we've
Yep,
got the Midnight Express, Jim Cornette, and they're taking on the Samoan SWAT team. Oliver Humperdinck is the manager with his big pot belly, bare chested beauty, along with Samu, Fatu, and the Tonga Kid.
yep,
So
and the Samoan SWAT team did have a really cool entrance.
they
Uh,
did.
yeah, if any of you have the time, I recommend you guys go back. It's a really good, almost all the entrances on this show were really good. That I
Absolutely.
will give it, but this
Yeah.
one really stood out for me.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The only thing that I'm gonna knock, and I'm in the Ted DiBiase school of thinking here, is
Oh,
that the Samoan SWAT team were in white. They were dressed in white, and it's just
oh, yeah.
for heels. For heels, no, you can't be dressed in white for the heel team. It's
First
not good.
you want super kicks, you want color coordination, what is going on with you today?
I don't know. I want a mix of Bill Watts' Texas Death and some lucha libre and nothing in between. That's my that's
Oh my
that's my
god.
sweet spot. Fast-paced, high octane action. Of course, you've got Stanley and you got Bobby Eaton, you got incredible, technical wrestlers and just quick wrestlers there. You've got the
Mhm.
Samoan SWAT team, the Samoan Dynasty, which everybody is now saying is the greatest family in the history of the world. That's a
Yeah.
show for another time. And then you've got Doctor Death, which runs wild halfway through. He's the one that gets the hot tag after Bobby Eaton is isolated throughout the large portion of this match.
Yep.
After all 6 men get in for that Pier 6 brawl, we end off with Stan Lane once Jim Cornette is up on the apron there, and he gets a flying headbutt to the spine, and Lane ends up going headfirst into the racket. The Samoan SWAT team, they pick up the victory, much needed for them. I think they haven't gotten a whole lot of momentum during this podcast because we have
Would
seen them quite a few times so far.
Yeah, it's weird. We like almost every episode that we've done of this Flair rivalry,
Mhm.
they've been on the card, and yeah, they I feel like they want to push them. They just never actually pull the trigger on fully
Exactly.
pushing them.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a much needed win. Uh, Again, a little screwy finish at the end there. But I
Mhm.
doubt we'll see any of that anymore in the show.
No, one and done, one and done.
Yeah, yeah, of
Uh,
course, of course.
backstage, we've got the Soul Taker, Gordon Soley, with Terry Funk, and he's getting set up, hyping up the Thunderdome electrified steel cage.
Electrified Thunderdome.
Mhm. Match number 3, the Cuban Assassin and Tommy Rich. Now, this match fell off a cliff, and the Philadelphia crowd were happy to do the "Long live the king" spot. They took their paws right off the mountain, didn't give him a chance for life. It was a
Yep,
massacre from start to finish. It started off okay, and then Tommy Rich absolutely messes up a sunset flip,
yep,
and the
yep.
crowd just will not forgive them. just just won't do it. Thankfully, they don't try to even recover. They just plow through the rest of the match, and Tommy Rich with the Thez press to win. There's not many
Listen,
notes to take on this
I literally wrote
because
on my notes this was basically a piss break.
oh man, because he hits the Thez press. 1, 2, 3. He doesn't even celebrate the victory. He gets out of the ring and
Yep.
leaves.
Yeah, I
No
forgot, but
time
he
waste.
he literally just gets up and he's like, "Alright, I'm out. I'm done."
No saviors here. Uh,
Yeah.
moving right along, poor Tommy Rich. He used to be the NWA heavyweight champion. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Uh,
Yeah, man, but
match
again,
number
that was
4.
honestly just a piss break. None of that I think is gonna matter or will matter.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, match number 4 is for the NWA World Tag Team titles,
indeed.
currently held by the Fabulous Freebirds, Jimmy Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes. Which is funny because I remember us talking about P.S. Hayes
Yeah.
last podcast, I believe,
Yeah, at
and
least,
just the difference in swagger when he has a team behind him.
yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
he's by himself, he's just regular PSAs. As soon as he has a team, it's like a
Oh, yeah,
completely new wrestler.
the cock of the walk,
Yep.
when he's when he's got old Jimmy Jam. Eh,
Yep. They'll be taking on the dynamic dudes, Johnny Ace and
mhm.
Shane Douglas with Jim
Yeah.
Cornette.
Yeah, Jim
Another
Cornette.
team, yep, another team that they've been trying to push like crazy, but the fans are just not vibing with
No.
them.
I mean, I have
They
right here, the Freebirds are the most over babyface heels in the business, uh,
yeah.
against these dumb bastards, the Dynamic Nudes.
Listen, they keep trying to do their bring a kid from the audience thing. The kids still seem very very confused about what's going on.
Eh, and what we know about Johnny Ace now, I mean,
uh I keep forgetting that
uh,
they're the same person.
uh,
So early on it's all dynamic dudes.
Mhm.
They have control of the match for most of part of it. Nothing too crazy here. They keep trying to get over. Johnny Ace does pull off a really decent headlock and like leg lock move where he takes out both men to the outside of
Yeah,
the ring.
yeah, yeah. The
That
headlock head
was
scissors. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that was pretty cool. But other than that, man, it like the fans were trying to get behind them. Like you would hear some fans kind of like root for the dynamic dudes, but the heels ultimately get even more reaction than them for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Hayes takes a cheap shot on the outside, and that gets, like, the biggest pop of the match, and it's just a right hand, and it's wonderful. It's
Yep.
great.
Uh, yeah, and then they try to go for their finisher.
Mm,
Uh, I forgot what it was called, like the surfboard or some hipster
yeah,
shit like that.
yeah.
But the Freebirds reverse it for the pin. And again, the match was a really decent match for what it was, but again, the screwy finish just takes me out of the match every time. And
Well, not only
this is
that,
like the
but
third one in this show too, so
yeah, and it's, like, also too, it's just it's so like, the team dynamics are so off because everybody just loves the Freebirds, and
yep,
the dynamic dudes are just so just not cool, and to put them with Jim Cornette as well, who's a natural heel, who can't do the babyface thing,
yep.
and it's that makes it even worse.
And
It's
then
like
even when they do reverse the finisher and win the match, you can hear the people, cheering for the
yeah,
heels. So I
oh
like I don't know
boy.
how long they're gonna keep doing the dynamic dudes thing, but
The Dynamic Dudes does not make it to the end of this year.
thank God.
We will probably touch base with this if they show up at our next review, the Clash of Champions, which will be the final one that we are reviewing for the Funk Flair story. So we'll probably touch base with them there, but no, they don't make it out of the out of the year, unfortunately. For them. Backstage, the Steiners are
Oh my
interviewed by
God.
a microphone because Chris Cruz cannot be seen due
Yep.
to the Shadow Realm. But the Steiners, this is primordial Steiners. The Scott Steiner, you still got the Steiner voice, but is currently a terrible promo.
Oh,
And Rick Steiner is unintelligible as they hype the next match, which is Doom versus the Steiner brothers. And
yep.
who is with them but woman?
Oh my. Yep.
Yes, Nancy. Nancy has made her debut and has taken on Doom to destroy the Steiner brothers as woman, actually, watching the television leading up to this show, because I did do
Mhm.
a bit of that. Nancy, woman, actually started out as kind of like a fangirl of
Yeah,
Rick
like
Steiner.
yep, like
Yeah.
this nerdy girl, and yep.
Okay, so you've seen this. Fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah. And then she goes through this metamorphosis. She literally metamorphosizes into this sexy bombshell, this vixen, this woman.
Yep,
Uh,
she traded in
uh-huh,
her glasses for some leather, man.
yeah, for some earrings, for some poofy 80s hair. Looking like an absolute smoke show. Good on her. But yeah, she vows death on the Steiners, and yeah, yeah, just laying that out. And she's brought in Doom to get that done. Of course, being Butch Reed and Ron
Ron
Simmons.
Simmons, yep.
Yes, and I loved this match. A very, very, very tough choice for me tonight on whether or not to make this match of the night. We will see at the end, just because we've got hard hitting, stiff as a dick action, as is one to be with the Steiners and Butch Reed, Ron Simmons. I mean, you have to expect these things.
Yep.
Um, Hard hitting battle, back and forth, pretty even throughout the entire thing, I will say. Doom got in just as much offense as the Steiner brothers, which was kind of interesting to me, seeing as the Steiner brothers were kind of known for being these guys who could eat up their tag team opponents sometimes. They could
Yeah.
really eat up the offense, but that was not the
Until they
case here.
met Ron Simmons and Butch Reed.
Exactly. And they were like, no, no, no. um, Woman gets involved in the finish of this match. Kel
No.
Surprise. Kel Surprise. She hands off what looks to be a metal plate of some sort or some form of foreign object, sticking it into the mask of Butch Reed, who delivers a headbutt to that of Rick Steiner for the cheap victory. So Doom picking up
And
the win here.
with that finish, like again, I was gonna complain about it, but
Mm,
that was like the most creative way I've seen them use a mask to cheat,
yeah, yeah, not bad at
like
all. I
sliding
mean,
the metal plate into the mask. It's like I
yeah.
don't know why people haven't tried that like since or before as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess because, America right now in this day and age, not a lot of people wearing masks in this day
Yeah.
and age,
Yep. Yep.
especially not heels. You don't have the mystery foreign heel as as was the case in the 80s most of the time.
Yeah,
But
because I
yeah,
think
yeah,
Rey
gotta bring
Rey
that up.
Rey Mysterio was so over as a masked wrestler that now every time that
Mhm.
someone has a mask, it's like, "Oh, no, you're a baby face. And if you
Yeah,
wanna be a
and we're
heel, you
gonna
have to take the mask off."
that's right. Yeah,
Yep.
they're just trying to replace Rey Mysterio, hasn't happened yet. Uh
It's not
Match
gonna.
number 6 for the, United States Championship here. Brian Pillman challenging Lex Luger.
Mhm.
Pillman and Luger have been at odds for weeks. Lex Luger is constantly ducking the title shot, doesn't wanna give it to Pillman here, because Pillman may just have Lex Luger's number. Um, Pillman in this match for me looked amazing. I know that you are a Lex Luger fanboy. We
Lex
have
Luger's
we
my
have
guy,
stamped
man.
that in the sand.
Yep.
Yes, Lex Luger is the man. But Pillman here looked absolutely incredible for me. I loved this match.
Mhm.
Each man seemed to have the other person scouted. It was kinda like the previous match with the tag teams having an even playing field, but this to me was just a notch above. I found this match to be superior in almost every way, and that's thankfully due to Brian Pillman, who I am just falling in love with more and more that I see him in the ring.
Yep.
I think he's fantastic. Um, nice back and forth action, as has been repeated many times. This is actually not a bad show in ring wise. When the bell to bell action is happening, pretty good in terms of the actual action taking place. So Lex Luger picking up almost one of those rare clean as a whistle victories where he just manages
Almost.
to catch almost, but he does manage to catch Brian Pillman, nails him with the stun gun, gets him all hung up in the ropes, gets the pinfall, and retains the United States Championship. What did you think of this match, just Joe?
Again, I'm with you with the Brian Pillman stuff. I didn't really watch a lot of him, before, but since we've been doing these reviews, he keeps, like, popping up randomly on, like, random little
Mhm.
shows that we do,
Yeah.
and, he's been great. Like, this match was fantastic. Again, I feel like the abrupt ending kinda ruined it for me, where it's just like, "Oh,
Fair.
stun gun, pin," like,
Yeah, it
again, it
wasn't a particular finish by any means for
exactly, like,
tag
no
team
one
out of
hit their
nowhere.
finisher, like, it wasn't like a reversal to anyone's finisher, it was just like it just happened.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
very true. But, be that as it may, Lex Luger fights another day holding on to that US championship. Match number 7, the Skyscrapers taking on the Road Warriors.
Yep.
Sid
And
Vicious.
this is
Mhm.
basically who can sell the least
Yeah, yeah. Who
in a
doesn't
professional wrestling match.
absolutely. Who doesn't wanna take a bump? All of
Yep.
them. Every single one of them for
How do you make
different
a
reasons.
match work? Hey,
Mm.
man, you just do.
That's not up to me. That's for you guys to figure out. Because yes, none of these men, these are just a bunch of buildings just clapping into one another for
Yep.
only a few minutes, honestly. Because this match does not go very long. Sid
Mhm.
Vicious is still super over. Jim Ross on commentary was like, "We need to be looking out for that Sid Vicious, because he's definitely going to be taking a look at Ric Flair. Ric Flair needs to watch his ass." Uh,
Yep.
'Cause Sid is being pegged for the main event spotlight already, which is very interesting. But nothing special about this match. I have nothing really to say about this match. Dull as dishwater for me. The Road Warriors, now that I've gotten to see some extensive tag team work from them, I am thoroughly displeased
Oh my god.
by by everything that they bring to the table. They man, other than their look and their intensity, I am not getting it.
Listen, I was hoping that it was one of those things where it's like we just caught them on a bad run, hopefully, because the way people talk about them, I honestly was expecting more, but I'm
Yeah.
still giving them the benefit of the doubt as like, all right, maybe just wasn't their year.
Mm,
Maybe
mm.
having a no selling competition isn't the best strategy.
No, maybe not, maybe not. This ends in a DQ, uh, which is which is honestly all that I have to say. Maybe they're
Uh,
preparing, maybe they're building to another match.
yeah,
Perhaps it
because
starts
this is the match where Teddy Long hits one of the guys with a metal key or some shit
with a
like that.
key. Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
With a key. Main event time. Thunder got nothing more. Main event time. Thunderdome cage match.
Electrified
Elec
Thunderdome.
yeah, electrified as the Funker, Terry Funk, and the Great Muta taking on Nature Boy Ric Flair and Sting. Bruno Sammartino, the living legend, WWF champion, WWW.
Yep.
7 years, unbeaten record, will never be beaten, thank God. And there
And
you
boy,
go.
they
He's gonna
tried.
be yeah, they did. He's gonna be the guest referee for this battle. And yeah, there you go. So in the build up to this match, Terry Funk tried to suffocate Ric Flair with a plastic bag. Just a little
Normal
nugget of
stuff.
information
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you.
Yeah, normal stuff.
A piece of the dressing catches fire on the on the cage
Yep.
thanks to the pyro.
Because
And
because
Muta.
yeah, because
Mhm.
before the match starts, they
Yeah,
have to lower the cage,
that's
and
right.
it takes like at least 5 minutes, all while they're playing like this spooky Halloween music, and
Mm.
thunder sounds are sounding in the background.
And
Well, and all
fire.
the wrestlers are just waiting. I guess they're just
Yeah.
waiting for the cage to come down.
Yeah, and the Great Muta has to use the poison mist in order to put out the flames, which,
Yep.
I mean, this match just spells chaos from the get-go with just that,
And
but
yeah,
just
and
very
just
cool.
to explain some of the rules, it is an
Mm,
electrified cage match, but it's not a tornado tag
that's
match
right.
because have
No,
like
no,
regular
traditional
tag
rules.
rules. Yeah. And you also can't
No,
win
no,
via pinfall or submission. Your cornerman has to
no.
throw in the towel. And honestly, as soon as I saw
Yes.
that, I was just like, this is gonna be a screwy finish because you're not gonna throw in the towel for Funk. You're not gonna throw in the
No,
towel
no,
for Sting, not for
you
Ric
shouldn't.
Flair, right?
No.
Not for Muda. So I'm
No.
like, all right, how are they
Mm.
gonna write themselves out of this one?
Well, I will tell you. Ole Anderson is there for Team Flair, and Gary Hart is there for Team Funk. The cage matches is fine, but the hot crowd is what really sets it over the top, which is
Yep.
great. Um, at one point, they're fighting on the cage, which is not electrified all of a sudden, and then Jim Ross is like, "Well, it's the top of the cage that's electrified, not the whole thing. It's just the top because the whole cage would be crazy." But
And
Terry Funk does go up to the top and nothing happens. So,
literally,
so
as Jim Ross was explaining that, Terry Funk decided to grab the top. I'm like, oh my
yeah.
god.
But be that as it may, they do some Tarzan jungle swinging spots,
Yep.
which is nice. And then Sting with a massive leap off the cage to the ring. Fantastic. Um, very, very beautiful. The match ends finally when Muda gets in. just decides to punch Bruno Sammartino in the face, and then Bruno returns the favor. Gary Hart and Ole Anderson wind up in the ring, both holding their towels. Ole Anderson decks Gary Hart, who throws his towel into the air, and it lands on Bruno's shoulder, which was quite fantastic, I have to say. But it lands on Bruno's shoulder. He looks at it. He's like, "Towel, they win!" Ric Flair and Sting win.
He didn't even see who threw in the towel.
No, he just saw a towel and just assumed that it was Gary. So there you have it. Bruno calls the match, and Terry Funk in the figure four. He has lost. Ric Flair and Sting are victorious in the end of Halloween Havoc. So the cage match was fine. I had no problems with it, really. But the finish was just bonkers.
Listen, it doesn't even surprise me anymore.
No, but let us go to match of the night, standout star, and the overall show grade. Just John, you have the floor.
Well, my overall show grade, it's a 2 out of 5. Because there was nothing wrong with this event. Like, all the matches were solid. You know, everyone did their thing except for like one botched sunset flip. Everything else ran smoothly. It's just the finishes just took you out of each and every match. So that's why I'm going with a 2 out of 5. Like, it again, nothing wrong with it. It's just the endings weren't great. My standout star, I'm gonna switch it up. I know everyone's expecting Lex Luger, but
I am expecting Lex Luger.
It's actually Dr. Death this time.
Dr. Death. Lovely.
Because he's one of those guys where you always hear like in those like what could have been stories. And as we've been watching him more and more, I'm starting to get why they were so high on this guy, especially during his match. The way he was tossing people, like his overall like demeanor, everything about it, I'm starting to understand why they were so high on him back then. And then my match of the night, I'll give it to the main event. Not the greatest of endings, but a solid main event. So I'm gonna go with the main event.
You are all over the spectrum this time. Unbelievable.
I hate this event so much, man. I hate this event.
That was tough. It was a tough one to get through, for sure. Not one of the easier ones that I've had to sit down for. Match of the night, Lex Luger, Brian Pillman. I find that easy peasy. The U.S. title for me, fantastic. Brian Pillman, the standout star, naturally. I found Brian Pillman, as I say, starting to fall in love with him more and more every time I see him. And the overall show grade, I will agree with you that it was indeed a 2-star show. 2 out of 5. Unfortunately, not much being brought to the table here. They start as they mean to go on, because I feel like Halloween Havoc was always quite a crap show. With some rare exceptions, but this was not one of them. So fantastic. The first Halloween Havoc is in the books, and we move on to that of the Clash of Champions. I Quit, Flair versus Funk for the NWA Heavyweight Championship. That is going to be next on the docket for your Colossal Tussle tandem. But until then, thank you so much for joining us for this. Another episode. Episode number 48 is in the books. And you can follow us on the Twitter, Colossal Tussle 1. Right?
Yep, Colossal Tussle 1.
At Director KJ, which is where I post all things Colossal Tussle on Instagram, if you wish to follow us there. Of course, big thank you to Live Audio Wrestling for hosting the Intern and Just John. You can listen to us on Spotify. You can listen to us on YouTube. You put in Live Audio Wrestling, and there we are. All of the little listen-ons are at the bottom of this delicious screen. The law. And, so, for Just John, I have been KJ Thunderdome Johnson, and we are out!
I fought the Lord, I fought the Lord.